Hello and welcome back, my law lovers, to another episode of Lawyer Up Celebrity Talk. I'm your host, Cammie Lynn, and here on this channel, we do bring you the latest legal news impacting some of your favorite celebrities. Okay, guys, as you know, on this channel, the information that we share is strictly for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. All right, so for today's episode, I do have some steaming hot tea that I want to share with you guys today. That's right, guys. So today's topic is going to be on the Fulton County judge that's been appointed in that highly controversial case down in Atlanta on Donald Trump and the racketeering case. It's a RICO. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Judge Scott McAfee, just to kind of give you guys some background that you probably didn't know. Okay, so according to New York Times, the judge apparently at one time in his career, and his career's been very short, guys, at one time, apparently he worked under Fani Willis. That's right, you guys heard it. He worked the judge that is overseeing the Fani Willis Nathan Wade disqualification case at one time worked under her. She was his boss. And this was actually reported last year, as you can see, August 15th, 2023. And this was reported by the New York Times. Okay. So according to the New York Times, I'm going to read some of this article to you and then we'll kind of talk about it. Okay. So according to the New York Times, it says the landmark racketeering case in Atlanta against former President Donald Trump and others was assigned to Scott McAfee. He's a recently appointed Fulton County Superior Court judge who was once supervised by none other than the district attorney overseeing the case. And who is that district attorney, guys? It's Fani Willis. So at one time, this judge reported to Fani. Okay, so the judge, according to New York Times, that was reported last August 15th is when the story was released. Judge McAfee, he's 34, so he's very young. So he rose, according to them, he rose quickly in Georgia's legal world after graduating from law school 10 years ago. And one of his first jobs was in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. There, he handled early stages of felony cases before being promoted to the complex trial division. Now, this division was led at the time by Fani Willis, the prosecutor overseeing the Trump case. This was according to a former district attorney and a lawyer who worked in the office at the same time. So at one time, it looks like Fani was she was the lead over the complex trial division, and he worked under her in that department. Now it says Ms. Willis. We're talking about Fani. Ms. Willis, who became the DA, the district attorney in 2021 after Judge McAfee had left the office, began a wide-ranging investigation of Mr. Trump and his allies regarding the 2020 election that culminated in the grand jury indictment. Again, this was last August, so they're saying on Monday night. So this was like breaking news at the time. It goes on to say a spokeswoman for Mrs. Willis' office did not return requests for comment about Judge McAfee's time with the office. A lawyer for Mr. Trump did not immediately return a request for comment on whether the former president might ask the judge, who was randomly, according to them, he was randomly assigned to the case, to recuse himself because of his past working relationship with the district attorney. Now, I'm going to pause right there because I want to ask you guys a question here. Okay, guys, so there you have it. The judge at one time worked under Fani in this complex trial division, but I think we need to ask ourselves, does this judge, is there some sort of, with his continued involvement in the case, does it create a perception of unfairness, of bias amongst the parties that are involved? And I'm specifically talking about the Fani Willis disqualification hearing. I'm not even thinking about the Trump racketeering case. I'm only talking about the disqualification hearing. Does it create some sort of bias there? Does it appear to be some sort of conflict of interest? Is there some could there be impartiality in his decision making, because he did at one time work for her. And the reason why I'm asking that is because one of the things that really stuck out to me when I watched the hearing the other day with Fani and Nathan and the judge and the courtroom and the defense attorney merchant, one thing I noticed was that when Fani walked in, and it was unexpected that because she hadn't been called in to testify, she walked in on her own. But when she walked in, she basically owned the courtroom. Not just owned the courtroom, the judge let her get away with just theatrics, give me this, give me that, give me that. She sashayed over to, to the stand. And not that that was the problem, but I think if it had been a regular witness, and if they had pulled some of the theatrics that she pulled, I can't imagine the judge allowing some of that. So he sort of let her have her way in the in the courtroom. And I'm just wondering if we have a conflict of interest. What do you think? Is there a conflict of interest in Judge McAfee deciding whether or not Fani can actually stay on this case, or if she is to be disqualified? Not only that, we should also think about this. He disqualifies her, fine. Maybe the case stays in Fulton County if he doesn't disqualify, if the prosecutorial staff is not disqualified. So let's just say potentially, the case stays in Fulton County, then he's still able to preside and rule over this racketeering case. But if it's moved to Red Dirt, Georgia, then no, he wouldn't be presiding over the case if there's a change of venue. And then if you're a new judge and you get this type of case where you're deciding on a former president and racketeering charge, do you really want to rule in favor of the case being moved to a different venue? Wouldn't this be the biggest case of your career? I really think that this judge is somewhat biased. He's somewhat biased, and I think that you have to consider whether or not there's some sort of conflict of interest here. Who's appointed by the governor, so we know that, but because he worked for Fani at one time, I'm not sure he really should be deciding on whether or not she should be disqualified or if she gets to remain as lead prosecutor over this case. You guys let me know what you think on this one. All right, have a good one.